in our e-learning platform. I don't know if you remember from our
Yes, I
discussion,
do.
but we also have some participants that join the live session, and another participants prefer to see it when they have time, maybe in the night.
Right. No, I'm familiar with
Perfect.
audiences online. So, Bianca, I don't think we met, nu cred că ne-am întâlnit înainte.
Now,
De pe
Bianca
Oana și pe
and
Claudia.
Gabriel are our colleagues. Bianca is in charge with communication on our social media channels, and Gabriel is our community manager. He is responsible with the relation to the organization part in our community.
I sent you a couple of questions just in case
Yes.
you need the backup. And also should we test if we can use the PowerPoint?
Yes, you have here in the middle the share screen button.
Yeah. Okay, we cannot minimize. Going full screen. Oh, that's a challenge. Zoom. Share screen.
We can see your presentation is perfect. We can see it without notes if you have.
Okay.
It seems like everything is perfect.
Okay, sounds good. We'll stay in stop share. Sorry, we'll stay in sharing. How much time I have for the slides? You mentioned about an hour. Or do I have less time, more time, so I know how to?
If you can, I don't know, keep only 1 hour for the presentation, but also if I don't know, you have more to present. So it's not a strict time framework. We also had 50 minutes webinars, 1 hour and some minutes. We are flexible.
Yeah, I'll try to stay within 1 hour.
Yes, and maybe we can you can stop the share because I will have a short intro. I'll introduce you, and then you can start your.
Let me check one more time if the. Okay, now it shows twice, which I don't like.
Now we have only.
Let me just make. Yeah, let me make sure it runs after you present, so you don't get in. Okay, I think we are okay. Then stop sharing now.
We already have 2 participants in the waiting room. Usually we start some minutes past 10 because they are not super punctual. We have more than 35 participants register on through the form, our registration form. So we expect maybe 30 participants in this live session.
Oh, that's a good number.
Yes. We always Sorry, Manuel, we are sharing the office and we are close to each other, so it's quite weird when Claudia has her camera on. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
We lose participants. Unfortunately, we lose participants that register for the live session. It's something that we take into account from the start because people kind of face emergencies and they cannot join anymore the live session. This is the reason why Clau was mentioning we have 35 registrations, but expect to have 30 people in the seminar. It's something that we've seen and you know that you cannot control. So this is something that
I'm running my own. I'm co-host
Yes,
for my own
yes,
event, so we've seen a lot of this. I
yes.
think. I think the biggest problem is that it's too easy to make these webinars, and people get, they can spend days and nights just watching watching webinars. So that's a question maybe after for a follow-up meeting, but it seems that the media is oversubscribed at this point.
Yeah, and it's another thing that's happening, and we have to be aware of it. Unfortunately, in Romania, people that are in charge with sustainability assignments is not they're not only doing sustainability. For example, I was talking the other day with the sustainability lead within Schneider Electric Romania. So we are talking about
Okay.
Schneider Electric. It's a huge company.
I know the company.
Yeah, kind of. She does like 15% of her duties are sustainability related, but she's sustainability lead. So, okay, I know it's a lot of content, and people are kind of they see content and webinars and live sessions from all areas. But in the same time, we have to be aware and to acknowledge that sustainability is not, let's say, the main dish for our people in our community, not all people in our community, in general in Romania for the moment. But we are confident that things are going to get better because CSRD and all that's in the pipeline from a regulatory point of view, and not to forget about the financing side. But in the same time, we've seen the added value of the live sessions, and we've seen the added value of the e-learning platform. Like Claudia was mentioning, we have people that see the webinars recorded, that share with other colleagues, that revisit the webinars if they need, whenever they need, they go to watch the webinar again or maybe check the presentation. So this is something.
I'm used to it. Do you put also are the presentations free, or actually you have to be a member of the embassy?
Yes, this is a program that we have developed for members only. It's a benefit of being in our community, and the community is growing. We passed 155 organizations, and the majority of them are companies.
Oh.
Majority multinationals, and we have some SMEs. Sustainability for SMEs in Romania is something kind of exotic for the majority of them. They are barely discovering the topic and they're exploring, but not really investing, neither in education on sustainability, and even less in maybe implementing sustainability initiatives. But we will get there. It's a matter of time.
Is it expensive to join the embassy?
It depends on the profile of the organization. So, for example, if you are an NGO, you pay 100 euro per year. So it's less than 10 euros per month. And for companies, the fees start from 500 euros for an SME, up to 3,000 euros for the large companies. Annual. It's an annual fee. Is it expensive?
It's not expensive.
It's not expensive.
It is how I judge the prices. It's basically how high up you have to be in the hierarchy to sign the check. So this is probably a first manager, maximum second manager level.
We have people that are not at sea level, because unfortunately you can count your numbers, the people that are in the board and have sustainability on their agendas, but we have managers, directors.
I was simply thinking the ability to sign the check.
Okay, yeah.
Different the participants.
Yeah,
the higher up you go, the more complicated it gets. So that's what I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I work in large companies, so I could sign this amount I could assign probably 30,000 euro.
Yeah. It's easier. Yeah, it's easier when you handle budgets up to a limit. Now I got what you were saying. Anyway, I think it's going to be an awesome webinar. I keep on seeing AI. It's popping everywhere, to be honest. AI and reporting.
Feel free to ask questions. I didn't put the question of AI, but it's very much in digital transformation. So we can talk. I know the bits and bytes of AI, but we don't go there today. So no worries.
Yeah. We will see how the session works. Of course, for the questions, our participants go first. If not, we will.
Absolutely. And I send you and Claudia a couple of questions, but I didn't send a question on AI. So if you want to open with AI, absolutely, the role of AI.
I think Juana has this question with AI. One question: you prefer to have all the question after the presentation, if I understood well, or I don't know if they have a question, they might interrupt you.
You can, if it is in the right sequence of the slides. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Two other things. Do we need to open a channel on WhatsApp? Well, I cannot watch it really if I present, but let me think. I'll watch the time. I have a watch here, the clock here. So I'll watch the time myself, but I'll try to be short with the answers. You can interrupt me anytime.
Right. Okay, so if you or someone have a question,
if he has a question, does the audience know that it will be in English? I forgot to ask.
Yes, they know that. They are familiar because most of the majority of our guests are international speakers, so they are familiar with English. I saw that we already have 13 participants. Maybe we can admit them. Bianca, if you can let them join.
You start with my introduction and then...
Yes, I'll start with your introduction. And then I will give you the floor.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon.
We'll start in 2 minutes. Bianca, you can also admit all the participants now in the waiting room. Good afternoon and welcome to this new Sustainability School webinar. I think we'll start in 1 minute. Maybe there are another participants that will join us during this webinar. Good morning, everyone, and welcome, an official welcome to the first 2024 edition of Sustainability School. My name is Claudia Hâncu, and I'm project manager within the Sustainability Embassy in Romania, and I'll be your moderator in today's session. As some of you already know, Sustainability School is an educational program on sustainable management supported by Coca-Cola HBC Romania, also part of our community. All webinars, including this one, are recorded, and we will upload it recorded into our e-learning platform. So please share the information about our e-learning platform with your colleagues. Also, my colleague will put the link in chat, so you can share the link. We encourage you and your colleagues to make an account on the e-learning platform and watch all the webinars at your own pace. Today, we'll discuss about digital transformation as a catalyst for sustainability. Our special guest today is Manuel Wechsler, the Executive Director of the Acknowledgeable Knowledge Foundational Institute, AKFI, a non-profit collaborative alliance of enterprises with rich sustainability, ESG, SRI, and digital transformation profitably. Manuel Wechsler is an accomplished technology and business leader with extensive experience in telecommunication and IT industry. To put this topic in a context, driven by growing environmental and social awareness, regulatory pressures, and economic incentives, businesses are increasingly integrating sustainability into supply chains. Digital transformation is pivotal, offering tools to enhance transparency, optimize logistics, enable data-driven decision, and foster innovation for a greener future. As technology continues to evolve, we anticipate even more groundbreaking solutions, propelling businesses further towards sustainable supply chain management. This being said, let's give the floor to our expert and to dive into the topic. And after Manuel's presentation, we'll have some time for your questions. Manuel, you have the floor. Manuel, we can see your presentation. I think it's the first slide, but it's not the entire screen. If you can press to see it into the presentation mode.
Bună ziua și bună seara tuturora. Voi pune într-o secundă prezentarea. Good afternoon and good evening to everyone. I'll continue in English. And let me try to fix the presentation.
Manuel, cred că i-ai surprins pe toți, că nu se așteptau să vorbești în română.
Well, for full disclosure, I'm born and raised in Romania. I graduated in medical electronics at the University of Iași. That's my first degree. And I'm very, very happy to come, even, just remotely to Romania. And definitely, I can even take questions in Romanian, but I do not know sustainability in Romanian. So we'll start with English. Thank everybody for attending. I would like to take you on a tour of sustainability with focus on the European markets, because that's where Romania is. And I would start by introducing really quickly AKFI. We really believe, and this is very much topical, is very much what we are going to talk about today, is we believe the future of our planet and of our people and of our businesses demands connecting sustainability, ESG, and digital transformation. This is not made for today's presentation. This is our really creed and our direction for the Actionable Knowledge Foundational Institute. We are a non-profit registered in Texas. We really have a number of processes to rapidly achieve consensus on supply chain sustainability, and most of my presentation today will be about supply chains. I'll introduce also value chains, which are different than supply chains. And we also host a weekly actionable ESG talks, and we share this for free on LinkedIn and YouTube. But let's proceed. So today we'll host the number 5. We'll have 5 definitions that are related to sustainability and digital transformation. We'll talk about the challenges, especially in the European market. The CSRD is focal. This is a set of framework actually for new regulations in Europe, and we'll give you some data and some of the challenges that are coming with CSRD. There are hours-long presentations about CSRD, so definitely do not expect a full report on CSRD. And then we'll talk about our framework, the AKFI framework of the 5 forces for digital transformation and sustainability in ESG. So the 5 definitions. We'll talk about supply chains and value chains. We'll give 2 definitions about them and explain the differences. I'll give you our definition of digital transformation. And as a hint, it's not about digital technologies only. And we'll talk about sustainability and ESG and set some definitions for today's presentation. So many times we talk about supply chain and value chain interchangeably, but we shouldn't, because they are very different. Supply chains, it's really a one-way relationship between customers and suppliers. They come usually in the form of a legal framework, a contract, where the suppliers are requested to deliver goods or services according to a pretty much very well-defined framework of pricing, of quality, of delivery points, of timing, and so on. So it's really the activities around the logistics of procurement, manufacturing, and distribution. The value chain is what's important for the CFO and the CEO and the executives of the company, because value chain is related to profitability. If you want, supply chain is related to cost, and value chain is related to profit. And that's a key difference because it creates value at every stage. And that explains while the supply chains require only a contractual obligation, the value chain is actually a very tight relationship between the suppliers and the customers. That relationship goes everywhere, goes from the legal aspects of sustainability and sustainability reporting, ESG reporting, we'll talk a lot about that today, all the way to servicing the customers together. So we'll keep this difference throughout today's webinar. One way to think about the digital transformation is it's a three-legged stool. And many companies when they talk about digital transformation, they start with technology, which, as you see, I made it number 3, not number 1 or 2. Because technology is a tool, it's a set of tools, it's a toolkit for customers, for companies to actually achieve business transformation, new business models, new revenue models, new profitability models, and to understand what cultural and skills they have to change in order to accommodate the digitalization or the digital transformation. Many companies, actually, statistics shows a 70–80% of companies starting with number 3. And something very magic happens at that point. They invest in technology and the technology does not return the investment. Why it doesn't return the investment? Well, because there is no new business model introduced. There is no new revenue model introduced. And the peoples and the cultures become resistance factors because of lack of digital skills. So again, digital transformation is crucial and it has to be understood and properly utilized by the companies if they want to actually create value chains. There are many definitions of sustainability, and I started by mentioning actually that around 1990s, the way we started to look at management of companies, Ellington, for instance, in 93 talked about companies that can be managed in a way that are not only profitable, but also they take care of the people and the well-being of the planet. And what I'm using here today, it's exactly the same definition. I'm calling sustainability as the 3 Ps: the planet, the people, and the profits. And again, I'll use this throughout the presentation. And as you can see, there are 3 in the Venn diagram, there are three values which are coming from sustainability. And I have to stress that these are long-term values, as opposed to just reporting that is primarily supported by ESG. So let's move to the ESG definition. ESG definition in the last, let's say, 5-6 years was primarily considered a set of metrics used by the finance and the insurance industries to decide on the investments and make investments about the size of the investments, the risk of the investments, which is typical way for the finance industry to look at investments, right? Risk versus reward. It's sort of the moniker for that. So we all know probably what ESG stands for: environmental, social, and governance. And these factors were integrated in investments. What many people know about impact investments. At the peak of the ESG investment market, they were considered about $30 trillion worldwide of funds being directed toward the ESG. This went down recently, and I'm open to questions on this topic. So today we really wanted to talk about the digital transformation and why is the catalyst for sustainable and ESG compliant suppliers. As you can see here, really, if we put everything together, we have the three-legged stool. Please remember that, because this is important for your company if you want to go to digital transformation. Please do not start with buying technology. I worked for many years in companies selling technology. That's their mission statement. I'm not saying technology is not important. I'm saying it has to be properly placed in the context of business and people. And here is what I'm showing. Bring people's digital skills up to speed. This is important because this is the, if you want, the long pole is this the most time-consuming and complex process. You have to bring people on board. You have to change their culture. You have to convince them that digitalization is not about losing their job. It's about doing their job better. It's about getting better positions in the company. It's also about new business models, as I mentioned before. And there are a number of technologies, and I can mention only about a half of them, but definitely today we'll probably touch on artificial intelligence, IoT, Internet of Things, on data analytics, and data recording, data processing, data auditing in the next slides. And again, we have to keep in mind value versus supply, cost versus profit, if you want. So, by the way, I can take questions in the middle if that's okay, or we can move on. I mentioned at the beginning about the 5 challenges that are coming with the introduction of digital transformation as a catalyst for sustainability and ESG. We mentioned already the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. That should be on the top of the mind of everybody that works in the area of sustainability, from finance to regulatory to processes to aggregating all the functions of the Chief Sustainability Officer. It's really a groundbreaking event. The European Union took the initiative to make sustainability, and I will explain in the next slides more about it, but they took the initiative to make it as important and as complex, if you want, is financial reporting, what is called usually double materiality. It actually brings the really the preservation of the planet as well as the well-being of people, welfare of people, as being equal with the financial well-being of the company. So again, CSRD, as I mentioned at the beginning, can be the subject of many hours of presentations and details. Definitely see your compliance department if you want to find out more about CSRD and your role. And yes. The thing to keep in mind when we talk about CSRD is that really the clock has started on January 1st on collecting data about CSRD. And many companies think they are not involved. And the big surprise is actually all the supply chains, and I'm going to talk a little bit more later, all the supply chains are actually involved in CSRD. And there is no difference if you are a small medium enterprise, if you are private or public, if you are based in Romania or based in Latin America. All the companies, and I'll give you some numbers shortly, all the companies have to report based on their size. They have to report not only on their sustainability, but also on the sustainability of the supply chain. Taking a little bit more in-depth perspective of CSRD, I mentioned already the double materiality. And double materiality is really the need to report on material issues. As you know, companies have to report on finance for many, many years, established financial accounting methods, reporting methods. There are also processes of auditing the records or the data. The same principles apply now to sustainability, starting with the 2024 as the data reporting year. As typical is finance, the report becomes due by the end of the year or the beginning of the next year, like the way the financial reports are done. I mentioned already it has stakeholders focus. The financial reporting have usually a shareholder focus. It is the value chain I mentioned already, and I cannot stress enough today how important is the value chain in this perspective of digital transformation and using digitalization as a catalyst. And then there are the reporting standards, of course, which are similar, not similar, but there are in the same way we have financial reporting standards. And actually, some of the standards are coming directly from the financial reporting institutes. So the first condition of CSRD is really to have accurate reporting. I mentioned some numbers, and accurate comes with a tag price. If you're inaccurate, if you make mistakes, you can see here, there are different levels of fines. Greenwashing, don't try it. It may bring your company in the range of 100 to 10 million euros fines for greenwashing. Do not even, what they think. They say don't even think about thinking about. And non-compliance is even worse. It's 5% of the annual turnover in the European markets. And that doesn't count for reputational damage, from exclusion from public procurement, from investment disengagement, i.e. lack of access to green bonds, or other forms of investment. Because frankly, if you have to start to pay fines, you increase the risk of the operations of the financial operation of your company. So this is how CSRD really has teeth in Europe, and more recently in California, and starting in the US as well as other markets like Singapore. I mentioned already the suppliers must provide accurate data to customers. What I'm saying here and why I'm putting this as number 2 challenge is because until now, financial reporting, until now, ESG reporting, sustainability reporting was primarily focused on the companies themselves, the large companies operating, for instance, in Europe. However, the large listed companies, you have the data and you have it on the slides. The large listed companies are responsible now to provide accurate data about the suppliers. And in the recent interview on the AKFI actionable ESG, one of our guests told us this is an art and a science. We still don't have the science to have a perfect reporting, a perfect automated reporting. We mentioned also that this is going to touch on SMEs, it's going to touch on non-listed companies. You have the schedule. I'm not going to present everything read everything on the slide, but definitely gives you some metrics to consider we're receiving this year and next year in terms of reporting. And as you can see here, the value chain is an important factor. It goes from environmental to the circular economy, which I'm not going to cover today, by the way, and also goes to stakeholders, social aspects, labor practices, human rights, diversity, child labor, and so on, and to governance. A third challenge is the path through sustainability. Well, we should ask if there is such thing as untrue sustainability or fake sustainability. I've mentioned already greenwashing, and can emphasize this is CSRD and the current European environment is definitely putting an end to greenwashing. But really, if we think of sustainability, we can take 2 perspectives. One is compliance and one is sustainability. Many times when we talk about financial reporting, when we talk about sustainability reporting, we're talking about looking at the rear view mirror, right? Looking at the past and trying to describe and capture the past. This is the function of reporting. And reporting is usually short term, yearly, once a year in the case of sustainability in different jurisdictions. Financing reporting is quarterly. And it's really a snapshot, if you want, of current activities. Well, the sustainability, the true sustainability is really part of strategy. Strategy, by definition, is long-term. It's about sustainability and resilience of the company. It's about optimizing and maximizing the outputs, maximizing things like the societal impact. And again, the picture of interconnected value chain comes into place. As a reminder, a value chain is the one that goes from the supply chain all the way to servicing the end user, together between the customer and the supplier, being part of the whole ecosystem, being part of the whole value chain. So again, the third challenge is to really place sustainability into the hands of the board of directors and the executives is part of the strategy of the company. You cannot separate it from the strategy. Time pressure. Do we need to talk about this really today? Probably not as much because it's everywhere. It's in the news, in the media. I I personally don't think that the media does a service by just talking about catastrophes and climate collapse. But there is definitely a long-term effect on what we are doing today that will go to our next generations in terms of sustainability and support of our planet. Short of flying to Mars, we don't have another planet. We all live on the same planet. And of course, this has impact on the finance and has this cycle of hype and ups and downs, which is typical to financial markets. And finally, integrating digital transformation and sustainable value chain challenge. This is something I'll talk more also in the second part or the third part of this presentation when I'm going to talk about the 5 forces of sustainability and our model for this. But many times, actually, when I present digital transformation, I'm saying we should call it transformation digital because it is part of all transformation processes. Transformation is not unique to digital. It is management transformation. It is technology introduction transformation. It is HR. It is even economic transformation when we talk about the challenges in the economy. So going very quickly, really, we should start with the fact that the digital transformation really, as I mentioned on the definition, it involves the technology, it involves the stakeholders, in particular the employees of the company, primarily. It involves also a new business model. So the alignment with strategy and digital initiatives has to be the starting point. So it has to be a strategic decision followed by the execution in terms of building up the workforce, reskilling the workforce, changing the culture of the company, and eventually bringing in the governance and the digital tools. And last but not least, of course, how we measure, how we report, how we analyze, and how we audit the data because becomes crucial when we look from the lens of sustainability review. So to summarize, really, nothing can be done in isolation. No company is alone on this journey. I mentioned a number of times the value chains are now an integral part of the supply chain, are an integral part of the activities of the companies, and that demands a total approach, a holistic approach, and also demands tight collaboration. And the collaboration is not on a single axis, it's not only on setting a contract and having a supplier deliver goods or services, but it's actually integrating the supply chain into the value of the company. So for the last part of this presentation, I'm going to go in more details about how we can address this. I'm taking the perspective of the Actionable Knowledge Foundational Institute. I'm looking at the AKFI frameworks and tools we have and how we use them. I'm going to start by introducing AKFI's mission. As I mentioned before, collaboration has to be at the center of the activities. I'm going to describe in this section actually how this collaboration happens in practice from the framework of the Industry Alliance, which is AKFI, and how we're addressing this with our models, our processes, and our frameworks. So I'll start with introducing the edges. The edges is really, if you're from the beginning of this conversation, you'll see that integrates all the 5 aspects of the firm's strategy and purpose. Of course, firms started to be an economic place, right? For many years, the only reason for a company was to maximize profits and profitability for the shareholders without regard to the other factors. And I'm introducing on the next slide the other factors in more details. We talk and we'll continue to talk today about the digitalization, the digital transformation. Hopefully we have some time for questions on AI, on IoT, on the technologies, and the media is a buzz with information, some produced by humans and some already produced by machines, by cloud computing. We can talk about the governance. The governance of companies until recently was made behind closed doors. The board of directors, the executives were not encouraged to communicate, to be transparent, or in the case of CSRD, now they are mandated to become transparent and to communicate, as we mentioned about the financial reporting and the double materiality. The environmental forces, again, I mentioned earlier, media is full of fires, in the forest fires and disasters, up to the point of saturation. I think that becomes counterproductive. At the moment, we have to take a long-term approach. We have to look at our emissions of greenhouse gases. In COP26, for instance, for the first time, we mentioned the methane gas, natural gas, we call it the media, the methane gas, which is much more damaging and faster damaging the ozone layer and the environment than CO2, which is the carbon dioxide, which is the focus of many research and many papers and many software tracking mechanisms. So again, we have to take a deeper look and a more cool-headed look, if you want, the environmental forces and how this play in this framework. And never the least or the smallest, the social forces that can be unleashed by changing the economic conditions, by introduction of digital transformation, AI. Again, there are many articles telling people that AI starting tomorrow fire all the humans and take over the world. The governance that is so important in terms of being equitable, introducing in a consistent way diversity, starting with education, not only in the sort of starting to count minorities in the boards, as well as and again, as I mentioned, social forces that are really tightly dependent on economic forces and companies and work and inflation and everything else you read in the economic media. So let's start from the problem and the framework to solving the value chain sustainability. As you can see in the left side of the slide, really the value chains right now look a little bit like this tangle of different suppliers and in different relationships. At the Actionable Knowledge Foundation Institute, we actually started to study. We have about 20 interns and students and volunteers working with us, and we studied the how we can make the supply chain and the value chain efficient. What we mean by efficient, you see on the right-hand side picture, we wanted to straighten up, we wanted to untangle this mess and create a simple, straightforward relationship between the suppliers and the customers. At this point in time, this is a major challenge, as I explained earlier, accurate and auditable data has to be produced, and that cannot be produced if we look at the supply chains on the left, right? Everything is dependent on something else on the data. And there is no time. 2024 is here, and 2024 brings, as I mentioned already, CSRD reporting, data collection, data auditing happening this year. So time is now, or maybe time was half a year ago. I'm going to focus
Manuel,
also to the, yes, please.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Can we return to
Please.
the previous slide? I have a question related to this slide. I wonder if, I don't know, you have maybe some tools or software that can help our audience, because I imagine that for a lot of the companies in our community, their supply chain data maybe it's like in the first picture, and I think this is a struggle for them because now with the CSRD they and with the DDD they need information from the supply chain, how to transform the picture one in the picture two. Maybe you know some applicable tools or software that can work for them to
Well,
make their work easier.
Okay. Let me answer the question in two halves. So
Yeah.
the first half, the data architecture starts before choosing a software provider. In other words, data is everywhere and it's nowhere to be found. It's in different formats, in different places in the organization. So the first step is not to, the software will not do the magic, will not untangle the picture on the left to make it the right picture, the nice picture on the right. So definitely data analysts and data, and the evaluation of the data resources and data elements that you have in the company has to be there. Sometimes we talk about the data lake, right? And sometimes you say, well, what do you see in a data lake? Don't know too much. We know just there is data. So this is the process of understanding what data is important, how you tag it, how you. Then there are software providers, many of them, and there is a long list. We as AKFI, we do not produce software. We are an association of companies. We have, and I don't want to make recommendations on specific vendors. We have a number of vendors which are close to us. They are mostly in the startup mode. mostly using AI tools and data analytic tools to process. But again, start with the data lake, understand what is the data, how is the data formatted, how is the data, how accurate is the data, right? We say in analytics, garbage in, garbage out. So start with that, and the next step offline I can help you with some ideas on how to select a software vendor for your needs. But again, there is no one magic vendor. And as I mentioned before, and thank you for the question, but as I mentioned before, don't start with the technology. The vendors will be very eager to promise you that if you use their software models or software will solve the problem. I won't guarantee you, but let's say I have a high level of confidence that that's not the right starting point. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it answered my question, but it's clear that they need to analyze their own data to see what they have now and what they need for a better reporting process. Because I think this is a
Exactly.
struggle in Romania right now. They have the data in different departments, but maybe it's complicated to have it in a structured way.
Exactly. If you don't have the structure, it's the same thing. Let's think about human behavior, right? And human companies, right? Economics. Why companies are structured? Well, we have departments and HR and so on. We have people that can work together across departments. Why do we need departments, heads, and structure and reporting? It's the same thing with data. If the data is produced and stored in different places, in different formats, with different functions, with different, even different quality of data, you cannot make sense of it. You, you cannot untangle it. So we have data and we don't have data. We have data we collect a lot of data. We don't have data that is properly structured or understood for reporting, for the needs of reporting, for the needs of auditing. Let me spend 15 seconds on auditing. What's auditing? It's auditors come and ask you, where is this data from? Oh, we got it from our partner in Latin America. Well, and how did you interpret it? It's in Spanish. Well, no, we just have data, right? So the auditor will say, no, we cannot guarantee that this data is the right quality and the right, you guys don't understand what you have. So auditing is an important function, and most data in today's companies is not audited, was not subject. Financial, yes, the rest no. Thank you. Should we move to the next slide?
Yes, you can move. Thank you for your response.
And maybe this is a good segue into this slide, because everything on paper looks great. We can make beautiful PowerPoints these days. Thank you, AI, for that. This is, by the way, an AI for this picture. But here is where, no pun intended, the rubber hits the road. This is where really we have to start to think on how we make the reporting, the tracking, the sustainability, as I mentioned before, to make the sustainability as being real, being part of strategy. And this is where ATFI put together a first, we call it the Cars and Tires Working Group. As I mentioned, in collaboration, in collaborative spaces, we use working groups. And we selected Cars and Tires because it's not an easy, but it's a well-defined industry. And if you look at this mess of chains, it's easy to identify the top suppliers, the tire, the rubber and the tire suppliers versus the car manufacturers. It's about 10 by 10 matrix. And what we're proposing to do in the task force the working group, is to prove that the methodology of the five forces works. And we have a entire process of developing, and I think the last slide will talk a little more about process to how to get this collaboration fast and how to make it effective. So before going to in more depth to process, really let's sort of summarize and see how these five forces of digital transformation, the edges that I talked about before, they fit into the value chain, which is the other topic. So what I'm saying today is you need digitalization to create a value chain. You need to take a sustainable long-term approach to the companies, not a short-term ESG reporting, not just looking in the rear view mirror. And really what we have to do here is to move from cost to profits. If you read the financial news, if you read the news about ESG and sustainability, every CEO and CFO complains that this is a cost. And I don't want to point to them, but I would say they are partially responsible for this view. Because if you do not make sustainability and digital transformation fit into your value chain, create this business model, new business model of a value chain, of a sustainable value chain, of a value chain that takes care of your employees, takes care of your stakeholders, not only your shareholders, then you end up with this model that everything is a cost, everything to enhance the sustainability and the way you treat the planet or the people becomes a cost. And you have to make a real effort. And this is maybe one sort of important recommendation for the executives and the board of directors. Do not delegate sustainability to only to the lower levels of the companies. Take responsibility, because you ultimately responsible to build a profitable and sustainable and resilient business. And that can be done only through a lens of long-term value chain. So it's a whole transformation. I mentioned before, I want to call it transformation digital. This is the transformation process. You have to move from cost of enhancing the environment, taking care of the stakeholders, to make it as part of your profitability lens, of your profitability relations and perspectives. And I mentioned the last slide is the agile methodology. Again, this is about 1 hour slide if you want to go deep in details. But if you look at it, it's based on the principle of agile software. Again, I mentioned AKFI is not producing software, but as an agile process, you want to move fast. You want to get the best possible results in the shortest possible time. So you're not optimizing only on results, which take a long time. We form very small working groups. We call it the 4+1 working group. This is again back to our methodology, our framework of the five forces. And we work collaboratively with our member companies to create de facto standards, we call it, create standards and best practices. So it's a very rapid, very high energy process, if you want, to address both the issues of digital transformation, sustainability, digital sustainable transformation, we call it, as well as the ability to report. And back to the question, this is actually addressing also the data structures. I mentioned a little bit earlier with the current task force. That's about a 10 by 10 relationship. Imagine that you reduce this 10 by 10 relationship to a single set of standards of delivering sustainability between the car industry and the tire industry. And that's what we strive for in AKFI. And just to summarize, achieving sustainability takes a collaborative and holistic approach. This is the reason we have these industry associations. AKFI is one of them. And we've stressed the importance of a value chain. This is again this part of transformation from a cost model to a profit model in the company, in the culture of the company, the culture of the executives of the company. This is not a. This is a process. It's a continuing process. It's not something that starts today and stops. CSRD reporting would be annual reporting mandated, as I mentioned, by the European Union, and going down from very large companies and supply chains to small, medium enterprises. We talked a lot, not a lot, and hopefully we have time for more digital transformation and AI. We talked about the sustainability, focusing on the trifecta of planet, people, and profits. Until now, most companies in the last 50 years and so on were only measured by profitability. And now they are starting to be measured by the impact on the environment and the stakeholders. And our call to action is to continue to collaborate and innovate. We are just at the beginning of understanding and implementing the value chain structure using digital transformation as a catalyst. I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Manuel, for your presentation. And indeed, the value chain transformation needs to, for a value chain transformation, we need to have all the 5 forces embedded into the business core strategy. I'm curious if our audience have identified already a need into their business, if they have this struggle, as I mentioned before, with data, with having everything structured from their suppliers, if they identify the needs to open this Q&A session, starting with our audience. I don't know if they have, if they are blocked in a process, maybe in their reporting process, if there is someone from the audience who would like to say what is your need in terms of technology, or maybe you need more time to think. Because I have another question related to this. Maybe they are thinking, but a question that I have for you is how to do digital transformation, but also to be a sustainable one. Because I think, okay, if every company, every organization have its own, I don't know, softwares, hardwares, this also implies a lot of energy that will be produced and used. And this will come also with a lot of cost, but also with a lot of costs in terms of sustainability. Because, okay, having more softwares, you have more emissions. So we need digital transformation for a better, I know, smoother reporting process. But also on the other hand, having more software implies more energy, which will affect in the end the planet. I think it's like a controversial subject here.
It's a bad circular economy, right? The more we use software, the more we produce
Maybe you need water
process.
to cooler that hardware, because I
For
imagine,
instance,
okay, if you have more
I'll just
data
speak very quickly on the water subject, but we need very high quality water because you cannot cool the data centers with, for instance, water from the lakes or the sea. You see salted and you see water is salted and corrosive, and the lake water is not pure, and the impurities will create short circuits on your boards. I'm as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm electrical engineer and electronic engineer from Yash, so I can talk
So yes,
about
I
that
think
maybe. But let me focus on the bigger question. And yesterday we published on our LinkedIn group a very interesting statistic about software and how much energy consumes. So if you take C++, which is one of the oldest and the most common languages for software as the baseline, as one, you have to guess how much the high-end languages now consume in terms of energy. It is 40,000 times more energy than it's a factor of 45 or 46 versus the C++ language. So this this is what AI is built on. This is what IoT is built on. So all these technologies consume a significant amount of energy and create their own sustainability issues. And not to mention actually that with the introduction of AI, we have huge data sets. We spend a half a year to go through all the databases and so on to compute the and to get our AI models, our AI algorithms. So don't think that when you launch a command in AI, that doesn't cost energy, doesn't create an environmental problem. On the other hand, and as I mentioned before, we have to change our mindset. We have to see how we use this efficiently. We are not going to go, the humanity will not go to spend zero energy. We need to spend the energy rationally. We need to spend energy in a positive way. And this is what I mean by digital transformation and sustainable digital transformation. Assume we spend an amount of energy, but maybe we shouldn't spend it to just create fake news.
okay, so we need to use the digital tools, the technology in a wise way.
Yes.
So we already have it, but we need to use them for a good cause.
Exactly.
And we need
to use
to
them.
make them work for a better work, for a good cause. It sounds nice. I hope that people from IT maybe are present in this
We have a
webinar.
number of webinars which talk about ethical AI, ethical technology. It's a whole area of relatively new area of ethics and technology. Until now, technology didn't really cross into the ethical space. Now they do.
Because also being ethical technology is part of sustainability, because we in sustainability have also this S part in the ESG with social. I can see that Juana have the hands raised. So I would let Juana to put the question. And also our audience, maybe some question will arise from our audience in this time. Juana, so you have the floor, you can ask your question.
Thanks, Manuel, for the presentation. I like very much your message that digital transformation doesn't mean that you buy a software and that's it. You are digitally transformed. It's more than that. Like we say in Romania, nu punem carul înaintea boilor. We should prepare ourselves better and more in order to use the digital infrastructure. But you have mentioned AI, and I have a topic in my mind. I think it's going to be one of the hottest topics in 2024 in the sustainability space, especially when it comes to data collection and ESG reporting. And I'm talking about AI. I even seen talks about generative AI. But for a company that decides to begin its digital transformation journey, is it not too fast to go straight to AI? From my point of view, you go to AI after you have reached a certain degree of digital maturity. It's not something that you start, I go straight to, I just have my driving license and I buy a Ferrari. I first drive another type of car. But in the same time, I think that my scenarios might happen. And this is why I am curious to hear your opinion. Is it more expensive to start later with AI, or you should analyze integrating AI tools from the start because this is the default approach when it comes to digital transformation? Or is too early to consider AI as default? What did you advise a company now starting its digital transformation journey?
I'll start. I really like your metaphor about the Ferrari. So if you have the money to buy a Ferrari, hire a driver. Don't try to drive it yourself because it doesn't drive like another regular car must produce if you want. So hire a driver. Let's take this metaphor to AI. AI is, if you listen to the media today, it's the solution to everything, right? If I need to buy milk, I can go and ask AI what milk I should buy and where. But this is really an exaggeration. I'll start with the negative view of AI. AI has a process which is well known in the industry, which is called hallucination. So AI does not have a human logic which can say, well, this thing it's real, this thing it's imaginary. I'm reading a kid's story, or I'm reading a paper, a research paper validated by 10 researchers. AI doesn't have these skills, and it's called hallucination. So you can get a lot of misleading and wrong and biased responses from AI. So this is about AI. AI is not perfect. It's not a perfect tool. Starting with AI, I think it has, I would have to say it depends on what industry segment you are. It has a lot of good applications right now in in writing software. People tell me that good quality software can be written by AI. So if your main business is to write software, it's a good tool. And you see a lot of people are actually laid off in US, for instance, in the software industry. So again, this is about AI, what is good and is not good there. Definitely, and very much, as I mentioned in the presentation, do not start with technology. Do not start with technology. Why do not start with technology? Because the technology is the tool, it's not the solution to your problem. And the solution to your problem still, and probably for a long time, will still belong to the human part, will belong to the executives, to the governors, to the middle managers, to the employees, which know and can integrate technologies with business models, with profitability model. So I can bet, however, and Juana, you're right, we'll see pretty soon, we actually saw already cases where people use AI and they were found that they use misleading or wrong information. So AI, it's a hype cycle at the moment. It's very much in the hype. It's very much on top of mind of everybody. I'll go back to my presentation. Remember the three-legged stool. One, it's business models and value proposition. Two, people and stakeholders. Bring them along and introduce AI when you know not only the strengths but also the shortcomings. Oh yeah, I can make a beautiful slide about cars and tires, but I knew exactly what I'm looking for.
And hearing you, Manuel, another question popped into my mind about competencies, because you are talking about people. People are dealing with technology. How do you see the role of the Chief Technical Officer? Is the CTO also redesigned by the transition to sustainability? All departments should be digitally trained. How would you see? Because are having this conversation about sustainability being embedded in business, and in the end, in an ideal setup, is not really a sustainability department for itself. It's a sustainability officer able to supervise all sustainability embedded in HR, logistics, product design. So each function within a company will have its sustainability hat, so to say. What about competencies? Because I also think that in the digital space, there are not so many experts for the moment.
Absolutely. And I think the question has a couple of parts. Should the CSO, Chief Sustainability Officer, be digitally competent? It's one part of the question. The other part is the CTO, the place for sustainability in the company. I'll start with the CTO because I had this role for a couple of years. And I discovered that the CTO role is to be promoting technologies and running to the CFO to get another PO, purchase order. So from a CFO viewpoint, CTOs are cost centers. CTO offices and technologies are cost. They are not profit centers. Well, the CSO has to be the leader for the profit center for the three Ps: people, profits, people, planet, and profits, right? The ones I mentioned. In other words, the CSO has a financial view of profitability. The CSO has a people view of HR, reskilling, upskilling, and so on. And also, it has definitely to have a background and an understanding about the environmental forces that we have no clue actually how they work. I shall say, we don't understand our planet to a macro level. We have theories. So, are there many people with these capabilities? Probably not. I'm dealing with a lot with universities actually. I'm a part-time instructor at Cornell. And there are cohorts of people from software companies, from large companies, coming to Cornell to get a certificate in sustainability. And I can tell you, many of them start from what is sustainability. This is what I presented today as well. It's sort of a distilled version of what I learned from my students. So the answer is, should the CSO walk on water? Probably yes.
Difficult time for CSOs.
But you have, is the Embassy of Sustainability, the Ambasada Sustainabilității in Romania. You have a leading role because this is where the training has to start. This is the departure point. And actually, I'm working also on trying to get a couple of certificates targeting the European market, the Romanian market, around the area of sustainability, because it's so much demand is not visible at the moment, as we discussed before this meeting. It's not a visible demand, but the demand is there. And I think I think companies will become very quickly focused, especially in the European markets. They'll become very quickly focused on really having CSOs, which have a budget, they have people, they have an organization. It's not just a title on their door of their desk.
Budget and authority to act according to the budget and to the plan. Because enforcing and supporting, that's a different story. Thank you very much, Manuel. I leave Claudia to continue.
I'll make a shameless plug, but we are actually yesterday we launched a research on the role of CSO in companies, and we're asking two questions on our research. What's your budget, and how many people you have? The rest of it, it's a question of skills, of skilling, and so on. But if you don't have a budget in a company, if you don't have direct reports, and you borrow still resources from other departments, you cannot be a CSO.
Indeed, Manuel, and without doubt, technology is an important part for sustainability and for all the activity we do in our businesses. But I wonder, why do many projects fail to return the investment, even if everyone considers digital transformation necessary and important?
I'll go back to Luis' response. I'm sorry, please go ahead, Claudia.
Because for everyone, it's clear that digital transformation is important. They invest, but some projects fail in having the return of investment. Why some projects succeed and others not?
As a CMO for about 10 years, I've been promoting, and being successful actually on enabling sales. I was not sales, CMO, sales, market. Digital transformation. And here is a dialogue, right? You working for this company, you sold me this magnificent digital tools and you promised you'll make money starting tomorrow. And I install all these tools and they don't make money. And my joke, I don't answer this to my customers, but my joke is if you need to print money, you need a color printer. You don't need a digital transformation process. Why did you buy? The buying decision is not on the side of the vendor. The buying decision is on the side of the customer. And the side of the customer is you have to know your business. You have to know what tools you need. And yes, call me and please, I'll be more happy to sell my tools to you if you want to buy. So the role of the CTO, to go back to the previous discussion, the role of the CTO is to propose the new shiny tools. And yes, they are necessary, but they are part of the business process. They are part of this value chain we talked about. They cannot be just the tools by themselves. Buy somebody a laptop and put it on their desk and say, here it is. Stop writing by hand. Is that enough?
No.
No, you have to understand why you need a laptop, how much training you need, and what function you replace with using a laptop than using, paper and the fax. Transmit information.
So to summarize, here is again your idea that digital transformation is important, but you need to know why you need and what tools you need and what's the purpose you buy the tools. It's a nice message to have in mind, and also because we fast approaching to the end of this session, if there would be only one key takeaways that we need to keep in mind after this session, what that would be? Let's say an advice or one final key takeaway to have in mind.
sustainability is just starting. It's here to stay. Is not going anywhere. We can read reports about ESG being a failure and so on. Sustainability is just starting. It's starting to be compliance. It's starting to be material. Keep up the good work you're doing, and hopefully you can join forces.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone have a question. If not, I want to have also some words in the end. We'll see, first of all, thank you, Manuel, for your presentation. And we will take into consideration your advices, and we will have this in mind when we will talk with our members from the community. We'll see again next Thursday, but in the morning from 10 a.m. We'll have a guest from Client Earth, and we'll speak about the nature restoration law and the nature restoration legislation into Romania and European Union. We'll put also the link to that session in chat. And we are looking forward to seeing you and your colleagues in the next session. Thank you, Manuel, and thank you all for being with us today. Have a nice evening in Romania, and have a nice day, I think, Manuel, for you.
Mulțumesc foarte mult pentru invitație.
Numai bine tuturor!
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.